Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started. So I'm going to call to order the Athletics Subcommittee meeting of March 24th. Welcome. Thank you for all coming. It is being recorded. We're going to start with the overview and background of boosters in Weymouth. Do you want to start it? How do you want to start? You want to jump?
Sure. And obviously the high school principal came on here and the athletic director Rob O'Leary are here. Good evening, everyone. I'll just start talking about the policy as it relates to boosters. I think this is great that everyone's here tonight. I know I've been here since 2018 and I don't know that a meeting like this has happened where boosters are here and everyone's represented. And I think the intent of the committee is to kind of have this meeting just to talk about the relationship between boosters and the athletics department in the schools, and really a support to just understand, what it relates to law, school committee policy and procedures, what it means to be a booster in Weymouth. So the school committee has a policy around boosters and organizations, and it's really to enhance the communication and partnerships between parent groups. It could be a booster group, it could be a parent council. So the committee does have they have like procedures within their policy. It's policy KBE, which can be found on the school committee or the school committee website under the school department website. And one of the areas it talks about is just the procedures. Organizations will be officially recognized upon request by the building principal or department to the superintendent's office. The second, which doesn't really apply, I think, to anyone currently, but it talks about if there's conflicting groups, you would have a school committee vote to recognize one group. I love The Office, so I'll use that analogy of there was the party planning committee and the committee to plan parties. So if you had that similar situation with athletics and booster groups, you'd have to, the committee would recognize one, right? The third procedure is that all parent groups, whether it's parent councils, boosters, should be a 501c3 registered. We can talk about that in the meeting. And then the last piece is all organizations should recognize that spending for student activities must comply with federal laws. And that's really just centered around Title IX. And so that's the procedure. I don't know if that helps people just to kind of open up the conversation now. Karen and Rob, feel free to jump in on kind of your background history with boosters and the relationships and how it relates to the school committee policy.
Okay, I'll start. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Karen Monahan, the principal at Weymouth High School, and I have been now on this side of the table, but I've also been out there as a booster parent for swim, girls basketball, and girls lacrosse. And so in all of those organizations that I oversaw for the time our children were captains, they all ran very differently. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us to all come together and see how collectively all of the sports can come together and maybe try to organize something that we can support everyone and everybody here, not competing against each other, but also knowing that there are some opportunities for individualized fundraising for individual sports, for banquets, for gear that is not provided through the athletics and banquets and senior nights and all of those. But it would be great to see, and I've done a little bit of research about different communities that have organizations that work collaboratively together and then support in one way or another so that there's a little bit of equity amongst all teams, because some teams are very small, some teams are very big, some teams have varsity, JV, and freshmen, where some just have a varsity. So they all look different, but we want to try to have some cohesiveness across the board. So I'm hoping we can accomplish something like that moving forward.
So are you looking for one boosters and everybody being under that umbrella?
I don't know if that, I'm not sure that will work, but I'm looking for some unity in fundraising for maybe one large event and supporting athletics through that as a large group, and then everybody doing what they need to do for their individual teams. there's a lot. I looked at probably 7 or 8 different communities. They all look very different, and I think it fits what works for that community. So I think we have to find something that's going to work for our community as well.
So my past experience with kids in the school and boosters is that our athletic director at the time expected a certain amount of money given to the athletic department on the boosters' behalf. It didn't always happen.
But I think you and I were parents of children at the same time.
Right.
So I would agree with you there.
So, yeah, it was, everybody give $200 to the athletic department so that there was kind of their own funding for whatever lacked in other areas. I don't have a problem with, the communication piece was great because I was telling Brian, I got hit like 7 times from 7 different boosters for wrapping paper. I think I still have wrapping paper from 1980 that I was hit for. So it was nice to have that understanding that, okay, they do cookie dough and they do wrapping paper and not everybody was selling the same thing at the same exact time. I would be in favor of something to the townwide parent council that a representative, like from one boosters group, they have their own sub meeting and have the communication done that way. I think it was what Gus had originally done with WUBA. Is that, did I say it right? WUBA? And kind of like brought everybody together, shared ideas, shared fundraising, timeframes, dates, all that sort of, and I think that was kind of like the boosters of the townwide parent count, or townwide count boosters, that sort of thing. I don't have any problem with that type of, so the communication is there. I don't like the idea, and I know that floated around rumors the last 2 days, that there'd be one boosters and every athletic group goes under that one boosters, because some are gonna raise more money than others. Some are gonna need more and some others aren't gonna need it. And who oversees that is a big question for me. So, yep, hang on 1 second. I think
Sorry. I was gonna say that I think that there are many people in the room that are members of different, like 2 or 3 booster groups.
Sure.
So it is happening now. It's just happening at a bigger picture of like, maybe I'm a member of basketball and baseball and soccer, and this is what we did in soccer. So this is what we do. So we're not doing the same fundraising in the same seasons, but some of the fundraisers are happening over and over and over again. And by the time it's spring season, those fundraisers have kind of run their course. I've been in districts where we've had one booster group that's run very well and one booster group that's run not so well because parents don't get involved, because if it's not their season, they don't want to be fundraising. So I do agree with you there. I think that there's a lot of the changeover in the way we're doing boosters right now, because it's mostly senior parents that get involved early, and then we don't get a lot of the younger parents involved until they get going, and the ones that are more successful have the younger kids' parents involved. So I think that before we start to talk about one booster group or anything else, I think we need to try to help some of the groups that are struggling and why they're struggling. And what's that? Oh, sorry. So that there's, I try not to yell, but so that if you're struggling, would try to help you why you're struggling. Get more people to help you within your team. If that's not possible, then maybe we start to think about how do we access other groups to bring in more money for them. But I don't think right now is the time to look at just one booster group, but definitely how do we have more help within athletics to bring some more money into athletics itself. I don't know that each individual team fundraising and then paying into athletics makes too much sense.
Right, and that's what, that's the other piece. I'm paying for my kid to play, and now I have to, and you're forcing me to do fundraising, and if we don't, who's picking up the slack of that.
Right,
So,
well, I think right now the fundraising is done, really done by a lot of the booster individual sports teams. There's not much that comes through our fundraising forms. Because we only have, like Brian said, we have to follow the law.
right,
So there's only certain things that we can approve that we can say yes, if it's gonna be on behalf of Weymouth Public Schools. So, you know, having boosters have their own 501c3 status gives them the independence to be able to do any types of fundraisers that they want, within reason. But we really can't say yes to a lot of different fundraisers because of the laws that we have to adhere to. But a booster group can do more fundraising than they could through Weymouth Public Schools. So that's the hard part, because I think some of our smaller programs do it through the schools, whereas some of the bigger programs can do fundraising, be very successful on their own, with their own fundraising, which is great, because they're supporting their team. But we just need to try to figure out how we can, it'll be great to hear from people tonight, how we can kind of organize and maybe do like, okay, in the fall, one team gets to do this fundraiser, and in the spring, another team gets to do this fundraiser, so that they're not all doing the same fundraisers at the same time.
so give me an example of, and I apologize.
So that's fine.
Give me an example of what a school-sponsored fundraiser would look like for an athletic team or a club.
Cookie dough,
Selling cookie dough, yeah, cookies.
selling cookie dough.
So,
Selling gift wrapping,
so
But
that's,
football squids would not be something that we could do through the
or March brackets.
launch bracket. Like, something like that. wouldn't be
well, we
something-
lost a lot of revenue when we couldn't can in front of the liquor stores.
Canning in front of the liquor.
We lost, that was a big hit.
I'm just giving you examples.
So you're talking about like the senior class is gonna sell wrapping paper.
That's
Yes.
something.
That's what,
So
in
someone else-
competition with
Right.
the dance teams that sell it.
So those forms helped us organize to what they were selling, so we know when they come through, okay, that's probably not the best idea because the senior class is already doing it. So we can reach out and say, hey, you shouldn't do that. Meat raffles are really large in Weymouth. They're a big fundraiser. But having 4 of them on the same night or in the same week doesn't always work. So if we know when they're coming in, we can ask to spread them out a little bit so that different people can go to different ones.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, and I'm gonna shut up to let everybody else talk after this. I don't want the boosters to be in competition with clubs or whatever. I get that, but I also don't want the athletic department or the school to take over jurisdiction of what the boosters can raise and not raise and all that, and who they have to in. I think it would be smart to have all boosters, presidents or whoever, someone on the boosters committee, to have a monthly or bi-monthly meeting with you two in, or maybe a spring and a fall,
Season,
and
fall.
have that sit down and say, okay, these are what we're planning. What are you guys planning on the club side, or where the clubs stand? So,
So a booster rep for each season.
yeah, similar
For
to
each
like the
season.
townwide parent council. And they meet with both of you and go over all those things.
But I agree, but I think what we're missing is we have some teams that don't have any booster rep at all. They don't have any boosters at all. Like we have programs.
But that's a choice of those parents, and it is the parents' choice. It's the parents.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to, I don't know if it's fair to say it's the parents' choice. I think,
Well, it's a commitment for the parents. It is a
yeah,
commitment.
yeah.
It's
But I
not
don't
the
know,
kids, it's the parent commitment.
but some of those programs that we're talking about, some of the kids may have different living arrangements than what currently exists.
And that's been, yeah,
All teams.
everybody has.
All teams, yeah.
Yeah,
It's the world we've always lived in.
there's some that have more than others.
So I'm gonna turn it over to the chairs. I think the woman in the red, okay.
I was just gonna comment to that, but we can't say that the parents aren't involved, so we can't do things, because boosters do pay for a lot. They pay for the swag, they pay for the banquets, they pay for that. So there are sports and activities that parents aren't involved, but it's ultimately the kids that are getting hurt. So we do need to have something that supports those smaller teams that don't have the parent involvement.
Thank you.
And
Said it way better than I did.
and I would say with what you don't know, you don't know. So if they don't know what other boosters are doing, it's an education for them. You know, it could entice them if they say, oh, all the spring boosters are getting together. We have a spring team, who are we going to send? Deirdre?
I was the president of Football Boosters for 4 years, I don't know, long time. This year, we decided to forego any kind of big fundraisers or meat raffles or whatever, car washes, all that. And we did, it was called Snap Raise. It's a text message, basically campaign. We had a gentleman from Snap Raise come. The kids had to collect 20 emails. The representative from Snap then took the emails, put it into his database. The coach, Mike Donovan, and I had an app on our phone so we could access everything. And they sent, it was a 2-week or a month-long, I think it was a month-long campaign. And they sent, it was email. It was an email and said, I'm raising money for the football team. You know, it was all laid out for them. The kids never even talked to anybody. And
So a donation?
a donation.
Mhm.
It was strictly a donation. You could give as little or as much as you wanted. And then if you donated, they wouldn't send you another email saying, you know, donate again. They might say, oh, you can, you know, you can get a t-shirt, you can get a t-shirt if you want for your, you know, your child or whatever. We raised over $20,000 and we only had 40% of the team participate. And had we had 100% participation, we would have raised $50,000. And it's kind of a no-brainer for every sport to do it.
And that would be something I would say, like,
Well,
I've never heard of it, and it would be great to know about that
Right.
for
I think,
other
Tracy,
sports as well.
so the other thing is, so for a booster group to do it, 100% fine, but it does, so policy GBEBD is specifically around crowdfunding. So we could not sponsor it as a school department.
Right.
It goes against your policy.
I was gonna say, we were stopped from doing it.
Yeah, but a booster.
We had done it, lacrosse had done it, and basketball had done it.
Yeah.
When whatever, but 8 years ago, we did it with the basketball team, we raised a ton of money. And then we did it again with the lacrosse team, and we raised a ton of money. And then we were told we couldn't do it anymore because it was in violation of those codes.
First, the school department.
For the school department to do it.
So we can't,
Yeah, for the boosters.
Through the boosters?
through the booster. So I guess if I could jump.
Yep.
I think that's, you're hitting on, like, I think a key point that we're starting this meeting out is that there's certain things that boosters can do as your own registered 501c3. There's things that we can't do per Mass General Law because we're a school department. The crowdfunding is one of the policies that speak to that. And so in the room, I gather there's probably teams that aren't a registered 501c3. And how do they navigate that, right?
I have all that information. I have everything laid out and
On how to do it, yeah.
how to do it. I've done it for a couple of booster groups here.
Well, Snap,
What's that?
Snap is offered to help.
And Snap is offering to help. It's actually, it's
Establish a
very
group as a
simple.
501c3?
It takes
They're
5
offering
minutes
to
online.
501(c)(3). But
Because they know you
two of
can't do it without that.
Exactly.
Right.
It's smart.
It is a very, the funding, as Deirdre mentioned, it's a very easy, you get a lot of bang for your buck, but it's also, it comes with, I think it's like a 40 or 50% fee that goes right to Snap Raise. So they're definitely vested.
It's 20%. 20%.
It could be upwards of, but I think all crowdfunding sites, but I think to Rob's point, it's a bit, they'll certainly help set up a 501c3, I'm sure. But once you guys are set up as that, and when we get further in the agenda, we talked about like the difference between a school sponsored and a non-school sponsored. That would be an example of if it's not taking place on our buildings and grounds.
Right.
If the principal AD isn't promoting it widely, if it's like, if the booster group is completely running it. I think we had an issue a few years ago where the rep, because I'm not a fan necessarily of some of the crowdfunding. I've experienced in other districts where they would come and pressure kids to like hit their sales numbers, and kids would be coming to the finance office in tears because they didn't hit their numbers. I would hope that Snap Raise doesn't do that anymore because it's a really awful practice.
No, that was Gold Athletics.
Yeah. But
Snap Raise I did my research on both of them.
So it sounds like a better product.
It is a far better.
Gold was more of a in your face, like.
Yeah, it was pressuring kids and sales. Right. I wasn't a fan of it then, but I'm sure it's a better model now. But I think again, a booster group doing that on their own, that's fine. And Rob wouldn't need to approve that.
You had,
Yeah, I wanted to make the statement, like, again, volleyball, we were approached this year to do that, and we were told we couldn't because it was crowdfunding and it went against, the policy, because we're also have, we're a booster of 2 people, even though we have 3 teams, we're working on that piece. I think, as far as like, my personal opinion is everyone does their own thing. Everyone, I'm not going to take from football. I don't want to take from soccer. I don't want to take from swim. I don't want anyone taking from volleyball either. But I think ground rules or knowing like what people can do and can't do, because you made a ton of money. I would have made, volleyball would have made a ton of money, but it's different rules. I think we need ground rules, or we need to just know what
I think that's what you guys.
what is allowed. I think that's the piece that is important for the boosters. It's not necessarily like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, it's just some general rules.
Pretty much anything is allowed if you don't do it on school grounds. Like that's what I was told.
Yeah. I mean, I can jump into what the. I don't want to get ahead of the agenda.
You kind of hit the agenda all over the place, right? So.
Carrie?
Right now, they got it through on our EIT.
Carrie?
I think this conversation must have had tradition and creating new opportunities for organizations that need support has probably come up before. And I think there's an opportunity for maybe the school to provide opportunities for fundraising that, parents, families, guardians are choosing to subsidize that. But are there opportunities for the athletes or participants themselves to do something that is school sponsored, where they don't need the 501c3, but it doesn't have to fall on the family? So for an organization, I think there is an organization within the district that sponsors homecoming dance. So that is a school event, that's a fundraiser for them. I think it's advertised to students as their fundraiser. So I would love to see an opportunity for us to teach students about, how to promote and support their work themselves and have equal, maybe not, I don't know if it's equal opportunity to it, but if we know that there's a deficit and this organization needs it, instead of trying to figure out how to undo what exists in our ecosystem of boosters, maybe it's the school's opportunity to say, there's a dance, there's this. Does this group and this group, do you guys want to work together, sell tickets, do the decorations, blah, 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 blah. And honestly, I would love for my students to be doing that themselves instead of running around town with a cup and trying to grab money from everybody that I know every week.
And I think, so the dances, the existing things that we already have in the school that are tradition, homecoming, freshman, sophomore, semi, junior prom, those are all already spoken for by the classes themselves, because it helps support them to lower their costs when they get to senior year for the senior prom.
So there's no sport, sorry.
No,
There's no sport.
homecoming is the exception to that. But the other 3 are to produce. I mean, if there are events that,
What about the powder puff? Does that go to, that's junior class?
But I think they win every year.
Well,
Like I'm guessing homecoming came from an inequity. Is it the opportunity to have that dance where it came from someone's idea, or it came from like, we need another
Homecoming
fundraiser?
came from nobody wanting.
Wanting to do it.
And somebody being approached and saying, hey, do you want to do it? And they were like.
I'll give you some history and anyone, you can figure out the math. In 1982,
Bring it back.
I went to a homecoming in Marshfield.
Yeah.
And loved it. We hadn't had a homecoming since 1958. So 2 of my girlfriends and myself put together, and we had our first homecoming in years in 1983. And it was a senior class thing that we put together. It's nothing like we do now, because that was then and that's now, but yeah, if you look in the 1983 yearbook, you'll see my name.
I can bring it. I have it.
Yeah, I just, I
And
don't
so
know.
that's how it stayed with the senior class, but yeah,
We
there's.
had WEF for a while, so they were kind of like this centralized organization. You would apply for a scholarship.
Right.
And then if your school needed a kiddie table.
Yeah.
Or scholastic things. you would
Kidney, I was like,
apply.
wow, that's amazing.
So I don't know if there's an opportunity for students to be innovative, all of our students, even the students that might not have the family support.
And Townwide Parent Council was really good to come together so that Ralph Talbot wasn't selling the same stuff at the same time as Nash was selling.
Mhm.
And that was a great aspect to have that conversation of like, what's your fundraiser? Because I don't want to do the same thing at the same time. And they raised, the funds they raised was to do a yearbook. They did field day that paid for all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm just saying, like, there should be athletics, boosters of, and clubs so that everybody, that's great. I had never heard of SNAP before, and I'm sure maybe even something for the volleyball, you're gonna get everybody's name
Now,
and.
again, like, now that I understand, that it isn't, then we'll do it.
Feel free to hit me
You'd
up.
be surprised with, if you only have, say, 13 kids on your team, you'd still be surprised at those 13 kids getting 20 emails, and I mean, I honestly didn't think we would raise $10,000, and, I was just kind of shocked that, it happened. And to touch on what Carrie said, I agree with trying to get that, but then are we creating events to raise money, and how stretched out is the school gonna be to, for those events? Like, how do you invent, another dance or another whatever, it's just, I think for boosters, you have to also think about, what are you raising money for? Are you
Right.
raising money to buy kids t-shirts? Are you raising money for a banquet? Or are you raising money to support the kids to better their sport, buying, I'm just using football as an example, buying, the blocker things that they use, because those ones are so old and tattered.
Right.
Like, what are you trying, like, what is your bottom line? I think it's great that, you want to give them a gift, a going away gift or whatever, but, my son was like, do I really need another t-shirt? It's like, I have 25 of them. And so I think a lot of it, and I get it, because I'm a parent too, and I want my kid to have the best of the best. But I think a lot of it is the parents want this more than the kids,
Well, we know what's best.
Right, exactly.
Karen, how many sports teams do we have at the middle school and at the high school? Do you know?
Collectively,
67?
And you oversee all of those? Wow.
Well, I knew the number.
You clone
I mean,
yourself.
so we.
That's freshman, junior.
And do
varsity,
clubs
and middle
typically
school,
have
and-
boosters?
So, no, so that
Band-
is
all the band does.
that's the other piece that we're finding is challenging now, is the clubs are also raising money for activities, events, competitions. And some of our clubs are well organized,
Mhm.
and some aren't as well organized. And that has gone, some years, one club is more organized than another, then they fall off, then they come back. So it really, again, is the contribution of the parents on that end of it. So trying to, again, with the fundraising, making sure it's not just about athletics, it is about the clubs. So like the music is doing cookie dough sales for the first 2 weeks of April. For their big event in May when they go away overnight. So it's becoming challenging because more and more groups beyond just athletics is
And you
also-
don't require the boosters to reach out to you and say, hey, just put a heads up, we're gonna be doing this fundraiser.
So I think Brian hit it earlier. There's two different types of requests. There's there's really
Well, I'm
one
talking-
request and one kind of.
Not school-related fundraisers. So the football team wants to raise money. Do they give you a call and say, hey, we just want to let you know, we're gonna do SNAP with our football boosters?
I mean, Deidre does, but
But they,
not everybody. I mean, I guess they don't have to really.
there's no,
They don't have
But they
to.
do tell us, we know, I mean, I know, but I think when people are saying that they're not approved, like if they're sending in a form, the form that's online asking for an approval, we can't approve some of those.
because.
But I don't
Because of
think
the-
people even know when to do the form.
I think that might be part of the
They
problem
don't,
too.
right.
Can you talk to
Can you
that?
talk to that?
You want me to talk?
Yes.
I can talk.
Can you answer it all?
So, what I'm hearing is that I think there needs to be by season, whatever it is, that there's a meeting communication, because I think a lot of what you guys are gonna probably bring up, we already have in terms of policies, procedures. So the first piece is, when is it a fundraiser that's a booster on their own or a school sponsor? So Deirdre brings up a couple of great thoughts came up, like the crowdfunding one, the meat raffle at the Cat Day Center, like those are, so there's parameters we follow when it's school sponsored and not. And so definition of school sponsored, which is in our financial procedures. And so I do think, maybe going forward by season meetings with the different booster groups, because some may have access to get the information, others may not. So definition of school sponsored. Staff or students run the event. That's key because a lot of our staff are parents too. And it gets a little tricky when it comes to, as public employees, we all have to deal with like conflict of interest and ethics things. So it's when staff or students are running an event, that's school sponsored. When staff or students are handling cash or use of school accounts, that's school sponsored. If the school is providing resources, supplies, equipment, whatever, that's school sponsored. If the event's taking place in a building, school building on school grounds, that's school sponsored. And if the activity is promoted, through our Facebook platform, our website, our email, school sponsored. So like those 5 parameters, which again, we have this, we can get this to folks. That differentiates between school sponsored and non-school sponsored. So an example would be the meat raffle. And honestly, folks around this table would probably go to it, but when it's not school sponsored, it hits those categories of like, checking like no staff is running it, no staff's handling cash. It's not in our building, it's not in our grounds. Now, an example of a school sponsored, we do have a form for this, and I'm gonna, Ms. Roberts, who our dance club coach, does a great job of this. And there is a form, so if you want to do something that's school sponsored, there is a form through Rob that Karen approves that you can get it approved as a school sponsored event. And then it's taking place in our school, it will be promoted by the school. So I think to take that step back, that understanding which teams are 501c3 and which ones aren't. I think the ones that are can run with whatever they want to do and understand the difference between school sponsored and not. And how do we support those teams that don't have a 501c3 designation? And that's the piece that I think through the procedures that we have established already on school sponsored fundraisers, I think we can support those teams.
Ellen and Rob.
What Brian is saying, it's so much information, right? But what I'm hearing is you don't have enough information, right? So I'm writing down our homework to do and how do we put all of this together? Because it's not surprising that all of you are here because I know and I understand how important athletics are to our town. But when I hear all of these questions and I hear Brian talking policies and 501c3s, that's a lot of information to expect our parents to walk in with. Thank you so much. There it is. But it's also like, where do you find all of our policies? And how do we make sure you have this information? Because I think some teams are great at handing down booster parents to, and then you have some new parents that are coming into a sport, their child's never even played before potentially. And you're like, I want to help. I'm here at this meeting. How do I do that? And I think I'm hearing that's a lot of the homework that we have to do to make sure you have that information and it's easy and accessible. And if you have questions, then you know who you're asking those questions.
Is this something we could put on our website going forward?
So all this stuff's available. I think it's just how.
It's not all like,
So it's almost, I'm seeing it almost that we need to create a packet or packet. So when you have each season meeting, right?
It's on the website.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I think it needs to,
I honestly don't think.
I don't think it's enough. I think when you have your sports, like spring meeting for spring sports or whatever, the teams all come together, that you have a packet ready for them so that they can see what it entails. Like and so maybe a parent will step forward or whatever, but if each team or each captain, whatever,
I have it all put together.
that's it, right? Has the packet that goes out to everyone. I think that it just needs to almost be a physical
So-
packet
So when you come to that meeting,
or binder.
you know, each club,
So clubs don't come to those.
so
we would
all athletic,
Yeah.
so your child's signing up for baseball, so baseball, and it has everybody's email on it, and football has everybody's, whatever, so that they,
We do have those meetings seasonally, for every season, where we come together as a large group. Sometimes there's a guest speaker to entice people to come out, and then they go and break out into their individual sports. And that's where the collection of the emails and all of that happens.
in a packet handing out.
But I think like,
Would be a great.
I almost think a binder before they do the breakout. I think that there should be binder for each sport for that season. This is the light bulb going off. With a binder for each sport that says, okay, so before you break into, this is, have a well-defined topic of this, that, whether you want a booster team or not, that they have that packet accessible to them. I'm just going to go to the person with the red baseball cap first, and then the person in front will be next.
I think it's a great idea to disseminate information, but I think it gets a little bit slippery if you're going to start having meetings each season and then saying, okay, well, we're doing this fundraiser, and this fundraiser, because you can't be not pitting each other against them, but you can't tell one team they can't have a meat raffle because football's having a meat raffle. I think that would create strife. Furthermore, I think it's also targeting remarkably different demographics. Candidly, I've been a booster for 10 years, and we host things, and most of the people that come to the hockey meat raffle are hockey parents or friends of hockey parents. The lacrosse parents are not coming to the hockey meat raffle, so there isn't cross-contamination. The lacrosse parents can host one if they want to. So I think, there needs to be almost a separation of church and state in regards to the school and what the boosters are doing individually. But again, creating information is wonderful, but being able to say that they can or cannot do things because they may overlap with what other teams are doing would get very ugly.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that to have the background so that they'll physically have the background of what is accessible, what you can do as a booster fundraiser and what you can do as a school fundraiser. I think just so people have that information is like the core information.
And I think, I hear what you're saying. So meat raffles never come through fundraiser.
They shouldn't.
yeah.
But they're not school sponsored.
Correct, so they
Right.
shouldn't,
So we
right?
would never tell you,
Yeah.
don't bother doing one.
I would never
do it
say,
that way.
But not everyone in the room knows.
a meat raffle, that would never, it would come to us and I would say, Mr. O'Leary, can you communicate out that that's not something that we can sponsor, and they can go ahead and do it on their own, and that's what usually happens.
So most of us have
Yeah.
non-school sponsored events.
You do,
So
you do.
with sharing them, I don't know really what that would.
No, and I don't think sharing, but there are some. So again, when we were talking about dance, the dance fundraiser that comes through to us every year is when they do the young children dancing.
Yep, the
Because
junior
that's
clinic.
the junior
Dance
clinic.
team, yeah.
Because that is in our buildings. You know, so all of those type ones come through us. But again, in each season, you're not competing with each other because cheer does it in the fall, dance does it in the winter. It's the ones that I think that do come through us, which are for athletics, are very few and far between. Because they're either at, places that are establishments that sell alcohol, and we can't do this.
You just had a great idea about, you said clinics. That's where you could get school-sponsored fundraising, is hosting clinics, a dance clinic, a football clinic, a hockey clinic, a lacrosse, a soccer clinic. That's where you can get the kids involved, and that's where you can get the school-sponsored events.
And many of those do happen.
Yeah.
Do they still do the street hockey?
No.
That was a big fundraiser.
But basketball, three-season basketball will have
What?
clinics at night.
Right, that's what we're trying to say. In the-
Two
Yep.
things, I think that if you have a seasonal booster, if you're worried about people cross-contaminating and whatnot, and people, I think boosters, I was a booster parent for a long enough time that I saw it be unsuccessful and grow to being very successful. And it is about getting the older parents with the younger parents so that I could then pass it along and the next person, it just was seamless integration. And that if you're thinking of, okay, we wanna have everybody on the same page, just understanding what the boosters do, you need to do that probably in the fall, because I know with a successful boostering, you're already making money and trying to fundraise outside of your season. So you don't need to have those you need to have one and say, somebody's gotta be represented, reach out to your coaches and say, coaches, if you have an organization or if you have some parent, to help you out, just send someone so they know and then get your group started. And then my other thing is if we're worried about teams or groups that don't have things, I know we had pep rally. Was that we have battle of the classes, we have stuff that's in, and I know that some of those are sponsored by classes, but like a pep rally, that could get dispersed to every, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's one of those ones that could be an umbrella type thing.
So this fall, we used the pep rally to help pay for some of the waivers that were requested in the fall.
Yeah, so if that, you know what I mean, events like that, or maybe you have a game per season where you're like, okay, the proceeds from this are gonna go towards yada, yada, yada. And just one of the football games or one of the basketball games, and you say, this is going towards all the funds from this, all of the funds from this are going to this. And that could be something that helps those other teams where you're worried about the have and the have-nots. That could help.
Good idea.
Bob?
I think one of the things that everyone's on this plate wants is one place to get everything, right? And when about a year ago, I went to a meeting with Brian, and we expressed at that time that athletics is different from every other entity probably in the town, right? It's its own separate animal over here. And that's what you need, right? As parents, as coaches, as boosters, I don't care what it is. There's websites out there that you can partner with and for Snap, and it'll have your schedule. It'll have your own grouping for emails from the coach to the parents, from the coach to the kids. You can have one specifically for all the boosters, right? So you can just share information. Hey, we're doing this raffle. You're not asking for permission. I agree with you. I mean, you're not going at the same people, and you can have a document section where the 501c3 that they'll help you set up for free, or any of those other, Brian, can upload the policies and stuff like that. So I think that moving in that direction is to get athletics a website that kind of works for us all, right? And maybe have a couple parents work with someone to kind of get that one entity where you click on Weymouth Athletics, that's where all your information is, right? You click on, your social media, right? Hey, what teams won today, right? I'm gonna go there, it's gonna say what teams won, who's on what team, all that stuff that you kind of, I also like, and it's gonna be frustrating, I know volleyball is gonna be the hardest one, right? You don't know if it's gonna be 3 games or 5 games, depending on who wins or loses, right? So you can tell the parents, hey, the game's running 45 minutes late, the game's running half an hour late. And especially when you have older parents that come to the events and stuff like that, them sitting there for 45 minutes before their family gets, is gonna play, like, that's just a waste of their time, and, they get tired, whatever, just as an example. So I think for all of us to kind of see if the school committee or, this subgroup can kind of push us in that direction, I think it would be beneficial for across the board. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts on that, but it's right now, it doesn't work. Like the website, it's great for, like certain aspects for Mr. O'Leary, but as far as, I think for the masses, I can only speak for the golf teams and hockey, but I didn't find it user-friendly.
I lost track. Deidre, you got
I wanted to talk about concessions, like the concession stand. I know football, runs the concession stands during the football games. So what I would do for Thanksgiving is I was giving the senior class the opportunity to run the concession stand because I was done at that point. I don't want to do it. This past year was an away game, but the previous year was a home game. They ended up not being able to do it because they were being charged the custodian fee. And that's another thing, you have soccer games, field hockey games, lacrosse games where you could open, the concession stand, or you could not even open to sell concessions outside, but you're paying a double fee. And,
Well, Rob could cover that through his budget. I mean, he pays for officials, he pays for.
Yeah, but you're paying an extra set of security to, you're paying the town.
Somebody has to clean.
Yeah, someone has to clean.
No, I know, but you're paying a town custodian.
No, it's not her.
So let me just give you some background on that. So when the concession stands open, right, we have maintenance union.
Second maintenance.
Yeah, the maintenance union, that's union work, right? Can't take away union work. So we have coaches that coach in the field, we have referees. The concession stands open, you need a maintenance worker to do that. Rob could budget for that. It's not in the budget, but I think historically it's been football who's run the concession stand. It needs to be, it gets certified each year by the health department. You need someone who's serve safe certified for food to be in there. So, I mean, this stuff because you ran it, but I have no problem with opening the concession stand up to other groups that want to use it. But it has to be, you have to budget for the staff to run it.
Right.
And if everybody opened it, that would make the budget higher. So putting it on.
Right, no,
I'm
but
not disagreeing.
I'm hearing the need.
So basketball and volleyball, or wrestling, if they sell it, they're inside.
Well, they have a table with snacks versus.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't.
But are they paying a custodial fee?
No.
But I'm not saying open the concession stand. I'm saying just have a table outside the concession.
Oh, that's fine.
You can do that.
And you can do that.
No one's ever said that, at least I've never said. You can have tables.
Sessions. It's when.
So, Rob, let me finish.
Violet is
Let
going.
me finish. So let's clarify that, because I think that's a misnomer out there. So
Okay.
anyone can set up a table and sell like candy
Okay.
bars.
I wasn't
Who's
sure
gonna
if
make it a
that
mess
was the-
in the gym? And I've seen it outside the football stadium. But when that actual physical building opens, that's a different story.
Okay.
Yeah, gentleman.
I just had a question, just regards to, like, everyone's talking about different things on the stand, with the boosters. I mean, my kids got playing 3 sports right now, so you seem to be asking the same people for the same things. When you say the snap, I'll just say for the snap, for example. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I'd rather get a raffle ticket, or I'd rather get at least the meat raffle, have a shot at winning something versus just giving money. My question to you is, the school it's just an idea, but, sometimes in the private schools or, things of that nature, you do it fundraising, right? The reality is can the school help the boosters in finding out who are the alumni, for example? Like, you just said 1982, okay, who were the captains in 1982? I'm just being honest, if you had the yearbooks, I don't have that.
I'd have to look.
But no, if you had it.
No, you're right.
Weymouth, and people know it, it's like, okay, hey, I was a captain, I was a captain in 1988, so all of a sudden I know I have 6 teammates. I was friends with 7 people. Hey, you know what? Let's each get 55, hey, you know what the hell, we're not
We
50,
actually-
I only have $100, but.
We just had this conversation like an hour ago about, there used to be 1980.
There used to be an alumni committee.
2018, there used to be an alumni committee. That was the last time it ran.
When was it?
It was the
2018.
alumni committee, the Weymouth.
2018 was the last time the alumni committee ran.
They did mostly scholarships, so I think.
No,
But even-
But I'm also thinking for like, hey, I played 3 sports, I said like, hey, I get back
Yep.
to whatever you want to do it, so I was just wondering, but I don't have access to it, and would the school be able to, you know, let the boosters know, hey, here's some of you guys, and you can reach out to them.
The Weymouth Hockey just had a reunion. It was,
They did.
yeah,
They do alumni.
and it was against Braintree. We did lose, but it got the team back together. And they raised money. So I think that's a great idea.
But if you have alumni night, could you invite home boosters to like network with that group?
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea.
I know they have alumni night for the theater company, so it might be something.
But is there any way for you to
Find them.
find them, you know what I mean? Let us, I'm just asking this, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think honestly,
We could.
I'm trying to wrap my head around all of the boosters, all of the fundraising, and you bring up a great point, right? I think there's so many very proud Weymouth graduates that would be willing to open their wallets to support. In my thought process, I worry about all of our athletes being able to play first and foremost, right? So before I worry about swag and sweatshirts and all that, like my priority is that anyone who wants to play sports is getting to play sports. So truly, that's where my thought goes to when we look at our alumni. Brian and I have been talking about a little, I just mentioned it to Tracy, is if I looked at the alumni committee coming back, to me, I would look at it to support our athletes playing first. And then it might go into the extra fund of maybe some of those smaller teams or just the teams that really just don't have, boosters for that year. How do we make sure that they have kind of the minimum of what everybody else has in a sense?
So it sounds like you guys completely understand like boosters is boosters, whatever, but it seems like there needs to be some sort of like sports partnership where like all the needs that you're saying, like there can be a committee that works with Rob, that like, okay, some of those children that might not have money to play, we support them through this sports partnership. And we get like alumni, we get parents, we get, athletic director, whoever on that board. And that would be like a school funded fundraiser.
Yes.
Where we do money that way. Yes. You guys seem to be it doesn't seem to be a fight about like what you can do for boosters, what you can't, like, you guys seem to understand that, like, that's that.
We'll take the check for things that are approved.
Yes, like, through all of us and the school to get everybody where they need to be.
Yeah, the last thing we want is us in this room competing with each other, right? And trying to take from one sport to give to another, that kind of thing. We're really just, exactly what you're saying is, that's where my mind is trying to find that kind of partnership, the athletic graduates, all of those things to make sure, even the middle school, right? So we're not used to like boosters at the middle school. So how do we incorporate some of that to make sure our kids can, have the athletics at the middle school continue without
And I
paying?
even think like connecting some of those younger kids with even like maybe some of our athletes going to school and saying, hey guys, like, do like a fair or something. And like our kids go to the middle school and like, hey, like this is what's coming up for you. Like, I don't know, just to get the kids involved, to just like a partnership where we are building together, like.
We do that.
We did it last spring, yeah. We did do that last.
Happened last spring, right?
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
The kids down, the older kids down,
I just want to echo the,
promote clubs and
Boosters.
belonging, because some students are not athletes, but they want to belong. And so we have
And they
the
just don't
other
understand.
opportunities for them to belong.
What if the booster parents went down to that 8th grade meeting or whatever and talked and said, this is what, when your kid comes up to the high school, and I know you're like, when we go down there, like, you know what I mean? like, that might be an idea. I know they come up here, they do the Wildcat Way, they do all that stuff, but what if booster parents went down there and went onto their home court?
And what about like when you have open house, do boosters get to have a table or is there?
Yeah, usually
Clubs, tables and everything.
have tables at open house, at conferences. So bake sales sometimes happen, and those are the things that would go through the fundraising form.
That's what gets
Bake
tricky.
sales.
Sometimes you see raffles pop up and it's
Yeah,
like,
sometimes it's raffles.
raffles in the
Yeah.
building. We can't. But I think if I
There's
could
a way around that.
suggest a donation, I've read
Yes,
that.
yes.
But no, there is, I have wording here that I looked up. It says, oh, actually, Mel, it's on your paper there that I gave you.
Oh, right here.
To follow up on something from earlier is, I know me and Brian philosophically, we argue about this sometimes, but I understand that like, there's collective bargaining in unions, right? No doubt, right? We wanna see those guys, you know, they gotta get paid when they work, right? But when she brought up, just hear me out when I say this. The football team or outside venues, there's a janitor that can pay, or I don't know if it's disrespectful, I don't know what you wanna call them, field service people person. They're assigned there, right? That's the first overtime. So when they go to open the snack bar, they have to hire a second person. to open
Yeah,
it.
Bob, this isn't, but it's not the place to go into that.
It's
sort of
not
detail.
fair. Why doesn't, basketball doesn't have to, Brian.
I know, but so to make it simple, if folks want to have tables that aren't like using the grill or anything inside once you open up the concession stand, it opens up a whole new.
All I'm saying, Brian, is because it's just when you have, if they're both doing pizza and the basketball team's inside doing pizza, outside the gym and the atrium, and you have someone that just put the roll up out and serving pizza out of there, for that outside venue to have to, that's all I'm saying, like, can we just figure out a system or something, so it's fair for both of them, that's all.
It's policy, it's union, I mean, we can't talk about.
There's a lot of things.
It's like a lot of
But the
things.
simple answer.
Brick and mortar of it.
See, that's where they're full time.
There's the way around the,
I know philosophically we disagree, but
raffle.
for the room to hear though, if folks want to set up a table with. like,
Keep away loopholes.
that too. But bottom line is, it all goes through the coach.
I know.
and then the athletic director.
One has to pay, one doesn't.
So I have someone in the back. Yes, you're on. Hey.
How all the teams aren't able to raise funds. So when like soccer, I know football, there's a gate fee. Where does that money go to? Can they do like gate fees for all the teams and then that could go into collective something to help all the teams that don't have boosters and they need help? Like gymnastics had like, I was the booster. It was like pulling people's face to.
Gate fees.
Gate fees.
Yes, the
Gate fee, where does that go?
gate fees live within our revolving account, help pay for all of the athletic program. It's not realistic to charge a gate fee for some sports, like we can't charge a gate fee for tennis or swimming or places that it wouldn't make sense
You can't see. what the-
geographically to like try to put a table all the way around the tennis courts to charge people to
But do
pay.
they realize some of that money you're talking about, that you get at the gate to those, like the tennis teams, do they see some of that money too?
Yeah, it
Supplements
in
you.
our
So they all
revolving
see it.
account, yes.
Okay, that's fine then, yeah.
Part of the budget. It's about anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000 a year that we bring in, depending on Thanksgiving Day.
I was just saying like if
Home or away.
like some other teams that you could charge, maybe that could be money that could be put back into that program.
Yeah, so we're part of the league that we are in. There are only certain sports that the league allows you to charge for. And some schools choose to do it. Some schools choose not to do it overall. Some have chosen not to do it and now we're going back to doing it next year. Some, I mean, I know a lot of you know this, but some charge more than others. We try to stay on the lower side of the gate fees, but I mean, we've seen prices of $7, $10 for a football game on a Friday night. I think this past the playoff season, the MIA was charging 11. I think it was 22 to get into the Boston Garden on Sunday last weekend. It was 24 to get into the Songus Center. So I think that the gate receipts that we take in, number one, go right into our budget. They live in our budget. I wish it was a different era of time that they could sit separate and buy bigger ticket items like Brian and I talk about all the time, scoreboards and, replacement things that we need. But right now it's part of our living, part of our expenses. But we do try to keep it on the lower side. We were able to, this year with the Chestnut Foundation, get the students to get into the games for free. When I first got here, it was a $5 general admissions. We lowered that to $3 for the students to see if we could get more participation. And we did over the last few years. You know, I would love to continue to figure out a way to let students in for free, because we have seen a greater increase at sporting events.
Do we do corporate sponsors?
The question for.
Yeah. Like I'm talking a lot, but
It's over my head.
It's my favorite, it's my very favorite topic, I will tell you.
I think it's one of our items. I just want to go back, sorry, just.
Yeah, of course.
First of all, yes, I wanted to completely, we'll have more conversation about that, because there's a middle ground we can come to. Yep. Fantastic point, because I think that's what we're talking about here, because we started the meeting with policy KBE, which is relations with booster organizations. And it's simply that none of us up here want to, think we can, control boosters. Legally, we can't control boosters. So it's really, how do we partner and work with boosters? And it's really, through Rob and the coaches working with all the booster groups. But I think what Mel and I are hearing loud and clear tonight is just the communication piece and understanding that, we have all this stuff. How does that get to you guys? And it's not just putting it on a website. It's more than that. Like, how does it get communicated to you guys? So that way, Deirdre, who might be able to have a good relationship and talk to Rob, but there's a parent here who has no idea who Rob is. Like, how does everyone get it equally? So I think that's what I'm hearing tonight. It's just that the collaboration and relationship with boosters, not about controlling them at all. Let the boosters do what they want. And as long as they know what they can fundraise for us, cut us a check, we're happy. Do your events.
Did boosters get donations for and then put a sign at the company out at the school or anything like that? Is that illegal?
So I just heard two questions around.
We should hit that.
We should hit that. Okay.
The question sounded like that.
Corporate sponsors?
Corporate sponsorship.
It's one of the agenda items.
So what are we on the list?
Illegal.
Where are we on this?
Next agenda item. We're on to it right now.
Okay, we're kind of at fundraising section B.
Well, in the,
Okay.
In 5.
Yeah, 5, we're 5.
So we're on agenda. We're at 5. Look at that. The meeting's almost over. Fantastic.
We're in,
So sponsorship, advertising, we've been talking about this for several years. Like, you go around to other towns, even in Weymouth, you see Libby Field has banners. So Kelly Powers and then Alyssa Bossy and Amy Moore in my office for finance, they're developing procedures, looking at other districts on how we could have banners. We're going to start with, hopefully in the fall, has to go through budget sub, where basically, a local business, for example, might want to get a banner at the high school, or they might want to get a banner at Chapman Gym, or they might want to get a banner at Adams. Adams is used every night. So we're looking at procedures to launch fall of 25 on athletic sponsorship programs. Now, policy says that advertisement can't be permanent, so you couldn't put like a Nike sign up in the building permanently, but you could do temporary things, right? And so it's really local businesses. You see it at all the baseball fields. Someone signs up and just promotes their business through a banner. We put that banner up, they pay us a fee after the cost of the banner, and then you can do that each year. So I guess as we develop this, we'll bring it to budget sub, but there's questions on, is it by season? Is it annually? What locations? We're recommending the high school stadium, the softball and baseball fields at the high school, and then Chapman, Adams, and high school gymnasiums.
So I think a question that came up that might be in some people's heads is, so are the schools doing this? Are the boosters doing this? Are the coaches doing this?
This would be the school department, through athletics, there'd be a form. Finance would partner with athletics, maintenance would partner with athletics, because you need people to put up the banners. But basically, take business ABC in Weymouth. They want to get a banner up at the high school field. There'll be a process to do that. And then we would get the proceeds that would go into Rob's revolving account that would supplement the athletic budget. So maybe we eliminate gate fees at some point with the offset of this banner program, or even user fees. And just to put it in context for folks, I think it's 300, or actually it's probably 325,000 now that the user fees and the gate supplement your budget each year.
That's correct.
on a $1 million budget. So the more we can generate revenue to supplement, and ideally, what you want to do is kind of use those programs to build up your revolving fund. So when a scoreboard comes along, which I can touch on if people want an update on that, you'll have that fund to buy a scoreboard, which benefits everyone.
And I think we talked about this the other day. You mentioned scoreboards, but even the new scoreboards that are going up, there would be an opportunity to sell signage around
that.
Yep. Sponsor. We'd have to take it down each season. We understand that, but it would go up and down with the seasons for the different sporting.
Kelly.
I was just wondering, just a couple of things. If a team was to fundraise to get a banner, would that take away their gate fee for their season? So like, I know for girls lacrosse, we're the only town, and Rob and I have discussed this many times, the only town in our season that charges at the gate, which I find embarrassing. And I think a lot of the parents felt the exact same way, is that, so if our team went around and we got a banner made and had sponsors that said like Weymouth Girls Lacrosse, or like whatever you guys want it to put, could that take away our gate fees?
Kelly, prefer to kind of run through, if it's going to be on the fields, because it's our fields, again, back to like the difference between boosters, and if it's on our fields, I'd rather go through this process, but I have a feeling that if we do it right, it'll generate some revenue to hopefully eliminate gate fees. Maybe just might be the night games because of like the lights and stuff.
What about student pass for gate fees, where they pay like a second amount?
Season passes, we do that already.
Well, the student ones, we didn't need this year because they had
Because they were
their student IDs. But for your season, there's a season pass. But because it's on GoFan, where the virtual ticketing app, it's only good until you can only purchase it till the first game, because after that, it wouldn't be worth purchasing because you already missed a game and the
user fee.
Yeah, so you're missing, we're discounting it a game, so you're already getting a free game, but then you missed your free game, so after the first game, we stopped selling the season passes. That's the easy answer.
Which teams have gate fees?
In the fall, we have football and boys and girls soccer. In the winter, we have ice hockey and boys and girls ice hockey. We have boys and girls basketball. In the spring, we have boys and girls lacrosse and boys and girls rugby when they play at the high school, because there's no way to do it at Legion. We tried one year with the MIAA and it was an epic fail. So, but if you're hosting an MIA second round game, you have to charge a gate. So like one year we had to do it at Libby, and we had to set up rope all around Libby, and it becomes a logistical nightmare, but also becomes an expense because we have to pay people to manage different spots. So it doesn't make sense to have 10 people working a game.
Rob, does the MIAA give money back to those local schools?
Only if you host a tournament game that is not your school. So if you host a neutral site game, which we've been lucky enough to have a big number of them over the last 3 years, you get there's a set price for each ticket level you hit. So if you have 600 people, you get $1,500. If 800 people come, you get $2,000. But it's not us selling tickets.
But if you got teams playing, you don't get any money from that?
Do not, unless it's a Final Four in rugby or the Elite Eight in boys soccer, girls
They make
soccer.
a lot of money there.
Oh, yeah.
They don't give it out, that's for sure.
We'll do Deidre and then in the back.
I just have it might be a random question. What about the bus that can't leave Weymouth?
What about the bus that can't leave?
The short bus that can't leave Weymouth for away game, like a.
Utility.
The activity bus?
The what?
The new activity
The
bus?
van.
Multifunction
Van.
student activity.
There it is.
It's a short
Not the
bus.
short. No, it's a van.
No, it's a van.
It's a van.
That's why
That
it's so
can't
short.
leave Weymouth.
It's actually.
You have to have a
You call it a bus.
big school bus take 10 kids to an event, like say tennis.
Yeah,
or-
we worked a lot with the union on this, and I think also, so that multifunction student activity bus is not a home to school bus, so it's basically, any licensed driver can drive it. We can't require, they have to be optional. It's new this year and, you know, Mel and I we're not comfortable sending someone on 128. I mean, in college, I drove those vans myself and
Yeah, we don't.
they can be risky on a highway. So we're just trying to slowly pardon the pun, roll this out. But I don't think we've used it at all this year for athletics. We use it during the school day for some of our high school programs.
So I'm just thinking of, you know, money saving.
Yeah, it would save money. We just need teams to do it.
It's more about the gate fee, it's our question, about the fee, is there any way, and this might be Brian's question, to get something like Venmo or a better e-service that someone can do immediately? I know we use some system, but,
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be.
We can't as
more conducive.
we can't as a town and school department use Venmo or anything, but there is a platform you use for ticket sales.
GoFan, yeah, it's MIA, it's the one that's sponsored by the MIA. They charge $1 for.
Yeah, so what's tricky with,
No, the MIA doesn't, GoFan charges $1 thing, I'm not doing the MIA, I gotta go speak to you.
so we have to allow both options. So as a municipality, we can't legally pay the processing fee. We have to pass it on to the person going into the event. And conversely, we can't impose fees on the public without having a free option. That's the cash option. So we kind of have to have both cash option gate and the fee option online platform.
And the GoFan is growing across the state because once you get to the tournament, you have to, once you're not the host school anymore, it becomes a MIA event, you have to purchase your ticket on GoFan. So the app is getting better, the fees aren't getting any better, but the usage is definitely getting better for the end users.
Some schools, that's all they use.
Yeah, and they're struggling because
They might charge a processing fee, I wonder.
Well, they instead of having the free option of
build it as a ticket price.
Instead of 5.
Yeah, and instead of having the free option of.
That's how you get around it.
Like the cash option, if you get to the gate and you can't use their option, they're purchasing the ticket and giving it to you for $8. So they're paying the fee. The athletic department is actually handing you a ticket, but that ticket is paid for by the school. You have to have the options that we have right now to make it work on a nightly basis.
Venmo charges you too, like, you know, I know, you know, you're not supposed to have Venmo, your own Venmo for a booster organization. There is a business Venmo that you can do, which they charge, but then you can also set up a regular Venmo with the same name, and they don't charge. But you don't want your name, as a parent, you don't want your name on Venmo and, you know, taking all the money and everything, because then you're gonna get taxed on it at the end, so.
I would think there'll be a liability too.
Right, and they, you know, they need to come up with something for organizations for that.
I'm a little curious. You said some of these teams don't have boosters. So what do they do? Do they just, when their season's over, it just ends? Do they have banquets? Do they get like sweatshirts and stuff like other teams? What happens to those teams?
Is there anyone here that's?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So my son was a freshman last year on tennis and we had no bank account, no nothing. We actually had no seniors last year, so it was a little bit easier. So instead of a banquet, we had them all meet at Starland and each parent bought like their $35 card so they could do. So we did a little something, but it was just funded by the parents, you know. And then we did like pizza at the last meet and same thing. We just asked each parent to kick in, but I ended up eating some money because of that.
How many teams don't have boosters, would you say?
Good question.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah.
5, 7.
Oh, okay.
Programs. I mean, the two tennis didn't pick one up. I can't think. Like,
Swimming?
No, swimming has.
Swimming does.
Yeah, there's a few though.
Yeah, I just feel like I've had literally in the past 4 years, I've had 17 seasons, like 3 kids, 3 sports. I know Rob really well. He was his,
I hope you hit the family cap.
Oh, like 4 times.
in all these experiences that I've had, and I still have 3 years left after here. They've been great. I'm like, the boosters have been great. The parents have been great. I'm like, the kids, like, the car wash isn't about the money, it's about like them washing their cars together, and those kids like don't talk a lot and they need friends, and you get the quiet kid that never talks, now they're at your house at a pizza party and they're having a blast. So everyone's been so great, so if we have like a team or boosters, we can help the other boosters that don't have that, right? Just kind of like you were saying, like the school.
Is the partnership.
It's from my current council, like, let's just like set it up, because I can't imagine that any of us wouldn't help a team that didn't have it. We have it, I'm lucky enough in the sports that we have, it's been amazing, but like, why not do it for everybody?
It's definitely not about the car washes, because mine comes out terrible all the time. And I tip really well, but they have a blast. They have so much fun doing it.
We got a fire truck to come to the one for football one time.
She's funny.
Yeah, I just feel like it gives everyone such a sense of belonging, and they all should get it.
And that's what I think athletics is about too.
We can kind of open.
It's not the win and lose, it's about the teaching
It's so
togetherness.
stretched thin, like,
Right.
that's the thing,
And
where
a lot of-
everybody's
a
doing
lot
the
of
same thing.
boosters- A lot of boosters work together, like I was a booster parent for 2, and I got the okay from the Subcommittee, lacrosse, soccer, and basketball, and we all did one thing, and because the more people you got, the more money you made, so we did that. And I know like the boys and the girls lacrosse last year was gonna do that cornhole tournament or this and that, but people, like the boosters are not, like they all work together and they're it's a good thing.
So you said the boys tennis team does not have one.
It's me now.
So they have a great one.
So last year we didn't fundraise. So this
What about
year,
the girls?
I'm trying to figure out what we can, we're gonna maybe do a 50-50 or something like that, just because we do have like 5 or 6 seniors this year, so I want to be able to do something.
Does the girls tennis team have one?
I don't
No. I don't think they have any seniors.
Like it,
Right, but again,
and that, why couldn't they work together too?
They might not even know, like, I feel like maybe like you're saying, like having those like meetings, not to like compete against each other, but just.
to
say,
get
hey, this is
information.
what we do, and you guys are like, oh yeah, I should do a 50.
Yeah.
The other thing with tennis, I
feel
think,
like communicate more. I think that would.
Yeah,
you
I
can
did.
correct me if
I
I'm
agree.
wrong, but the other thing with tennis is it's a more of an individualized sport. So you might have a parent showing up to see their child in their match. And then, so that it's not a lot of parents sitting in a stand sometimes.
Most of the time, I'm the only parent sitting there watching.
So I think that happens in some of the individualized sports, swimming too. You go for your child's event. If they, and my child did the 500, so I
Still
always showed up
practicing
at the
together.
end, because that's when that happens, is at the end.
So I do the girls golf, and I used to help out with boys golf. And girls golf, we had no boosters, but I've worked with hockey, I've worked with softball, I've worked with baseball, I've worked with volleyball, like I've been here for 10 years, just like Lisa, so I think I've covered every sport. But golf, parents don't go watch golf. But we still are able to get parents to participate, and we've gone from, I think when we started, we had 7 girls.
Yeah.
And then I think the second year we had like 24. And I attribute that to Billy helping to grow the program. And so now I think, what do we have, 17 girls, 17 girls? But we're still able to fundraise. We have a good group of parents. And I think we all have connections with all these other different boosters. So when we do a meat raffle, like it's out on Facebook and people show up, and we're still able to raise money. We're still able to do a banquet that's not in the high school cafeteria. And our girls are picking up golf balls up at the range to help out, and they give us a discount, so it can be done. I think you just need to have, I think if boosters collaborate with each other, and that's the biggest piece. So like for tennis, if you need help, I don't know you at this school for another year, so, but happy to, but happy to help and give any tips, and, I think anybody in this room would do that, so.
Yeah, I'm on the hockey one too, so at least I get both sides.
Yeah,
so.
see, yeah.
The biggest thing with bonding, like, is, and I know it's the kids' experience, right? Like, it's their athletic high school experience that we're all trying to improve about the memories, right? And when I started this, I didn't, I'd never been involved with, but bonding, because it it was just each year we meet with the captains, right? And it's collectively, what do you guys want? Like, they might have got great, like, whatever the swag was the year before, they might not want anymore, or they might not. So we try to like personalize it, make it their experience. The whole team has a say, but we try to gear it towards the seniors. So it's their memories, right?
And we make them help out.
Yeah.
They show up to meet raffle, they help out, they do the same with hockey, helps out. You have to help out.
The first thing I tell the parents when we have a big, a big meeting, because we get a lot of the 8th graders coming up, because we have the football clinic in the summertime or right before school gets out. So when we have the meeting, the welcome meeting, the first thing I tell the parents is, you are all booster parents. Like, you don't have to be elected to be in booster, like, you're there. And I think if we can let the parents know as 8th graders that you guys, coming out, because they don't know. Some of them might not know what boosters are. They think parent council and they're like, oh, great, more fundraising, which it is more fundraising, but it's more individualized. So I think if we let them know what boosters is and, that you're part of it and we want you involved, then, hopefully you get more involvement.
Yep.
Maybe, do we just want to take any leftover questions?
Are there any questions, Josie? Are there any online?
Oh, we haven't heard from people online. Do you want to raise your hand if you want to say something or unmute yourself?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Danielle. I just was curious how boosters handle if there's a turnover of a parent. How does the 501c3 get updated to another person, or like how do you transfer that over?
Thanks.
Ooh, she has an answer.
You put it underneath the name of Weymouth lacrosse boosters, and every year, like you hope that there's somebody who will take it on for a couple of years, so that I literally was the bank account person for 4 years. And I just stayed with it for 4 years because I knew my kids were gonna be there. So hopefully you find that freshman parent that you can then say, okay.
It's wicked
or
easy
it's
to
like,
do.
it's really easy to do. I've transferred people over multiple times. You just have to go to the bank.
Yeah.
But ideally, right.
Yeah, you just have to, but you don't even, like, I went to transfer, I went to the bank, did my paperwork, then that person, I said, this is the person you're gonna look for. And that other person went to the bank on their schedule and went and did the same exact thing. And then it was just, we didn't have to see each other. It was just easy.
Yeah, it's I mean,
Banks work with you too.
it's about it is the bank accounts. Because you could technically set up one with a single person, but best practice is you have 3 more people establish the 501c3. You write bylaws, you have procedures. And then it's really, like you said, it's all about the bank account. What's the names on the bank account? As long as you get people that can last a few years, otherwise you're changing bank account names every year.
We changed it every year with basketball. We changed it every year, and it was, like I said, it wasn't difficult.
And you use a local bank.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do.
501c3 is easy. All you have to do is change the address.
all.
But it's the bank, the bank account is the.
And Deirdre brings up a good point. So yeah, you do have to file taxes of 501c3, like there's
It's a note, they call it a note card. It's literally, it takes 2 seconds to do. You just say, did you make over, I don't know, say $50,000, and you write no, and they go, okay, thank you. No, we did not.
Did you?
We did not. But that's all you have to do, you just have to sign no, and then that's it. It literally takes no time to do it.
I think that's important. You have your EIN, right? You have your own address. So I think what gets confusing is when boosters, they've asked to use our EIN to set up, and I'm like, can't do that. It's your own bank accounts, and even the address, make it
right.
Weymouth football,
right,
and whatever address. Because the more it distinguishes between what's a booster and what's even the fundraisers I see online. Like, I love the ones that say like Weymouth football boosters fundraiser, but when it's like XYZ team. And it's like, is that the school? Is that not? That's what we start to get the phone calls and inquiries, because we just, especially on raffles, that gets into the whole new world of.
Label everything boosters.
Yeah, just boosters.
Brian, that's such a great idea you just had. Maybe we need like a Brian's top, or excuse me, Assistant Superintendent Smith.
No, you can call me
We need a
Brian.
list of like your
Call me
top
Brian.
10, like what I need from you, booster organization. Like when you do this, just for like good
Rob sets up a
practice,
meeting,
not
I will
for
be there in a second.
whatever.
Right,
I
Rob?
think what everyone has
I said, you
identified.
set up a booster meeting, I'll be there in a second.
Communication.
Yeah, well, I mean, a table at the sports night is a good idea. I think what we're all kind of like, we do want to share, we want to support all the students. There is always choice. You can participate to the level that you want to, but I think creating access for students to be successful is what we all want. And what parents do with 501c3s is a totally different situation, and that's just going to exist. It always has existed, even at the elementary schools, different parent councils, different. But if the schools can support with what we can do as booster families to do it right, be cooperative, then I think if there's just ways that we can create access, even if it's within the boosters, right? Of like, all right, I'm doing this is a great idea. Or booking the car wash for a family that just might not know how to set it up if they wanted to create that for an organization that doesn't have access, so.
And you want to be a 501c3 because people, corporations or,
Right,
businesses
tax
that don't
exempt.
pay, it's tax exempt.
Yep.
So, they're looking for that number. They're like, oh, what's your ID number? And you're like, I don't have one. And then they're like, oh, all right, well, never mind. So you do want to be a 501c3. And you want to be able to get the certificate so you don't have to pay tax when you go and you buy balloons or you buy, whatever, paper goods and stuff. So you don't pay tax on all of that either, which, it adds up.
It's not as daunting as.
No, it's really not. It's pretty
Oh,
simple.
signing up for one?
Yeah.
Just gotta remember to do that card.
Yeah.
Iris.
Any more questions from the Zoom community?
Going once, going twice.
Once, going twice.
So,
Any other comments or concerns from the room? Thank you. We appreciate you all coming. Like, this is what we wanted, was for people to talk to each
One
other.
more.
Should we do like a sign in?
Yeah.
So-
We put a sheet up, we just put a sheet up back.
Did you put that?
I just.
It's the back of the room.
You should put what sport you're from too.
Yes, there's a sheet at the back of the room. If you could sign your name and the sport, please, so we can.
Thank you, everybody.
We adjourn?
Sure, we're adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Very helpful.
Thanks.
Thank you.